Telling your Prince Harry quitting the royal life must have been something of a shock. You've always had everything that you've wanted yourself, and basically whatever you ask for is given free. I remember a story reading about, and I'm never really sure whether this was true, regarding him and his late mother, Princess Diana. And apparently they said, the two boys were out at a sort of fast food restaurant. And apparently Prince Harry said, what specials? Are they specials because we're here? And apparently Princess Diana had to say, no, it's just specials on the menu. That's what it means. So you can understand, if that is true, just how warped perhaps Prince Harry's mind had become, even at that very early age. And I'm not blaming anybody or indeed him. But of course, what really happened over a bit of a year ago now was this. The fact that he was told to pack up, get out and leave Frogmore Cottage. Something that he thought was going to be a home, at least for life here in London, for him, his own two children, and of course his actress wife Meghan Markle. But what happened next is actually quite revealing. As ever, let me explain. Morning, how are you? You all right today? Thank you so much for your time. As ever, we'll have a quick wave. Not bad, thank you. Yes, it's always, I love this view, don't you? Beautiful. Camilla was at this church, by the way, recently. It's in Lambeth, and it's the garden sort of centred church, they call it, a garden museum. She's a big fan of it. Yeah, she's been a couple of times now. Lovely to see her at things like this, though. What I like about Camilla, she's got nice hobbies. Reading and gardening. Things we can all do. As she said, everybody can borrow a book from the library, anybody can have a go in the garden. It doesn't need to cost a lot. And it's true, isn't it? It's a nice sentiment, that, when you think about it, isn't it? You know what I'm like, don't want to spend anything, that's the problem. Back as ever to your royal story of the day. Yeah, a lot of people were shocked when that happened, were they not? Prince Harry getting the boot out of Frogmore Cottage, even though there'd been a lot of renovations. There's dispute over the renovations, though, as to who paid for what, because they did amount to quite a lot in the end, as you can imagine. You see, the bigger problem was that Meghan didn't like any of it, wanted to live in the castle alongside the Queen, in fact, and couldn't understand why Harry couldn't make that magic happen. Now, as we've seen recently, the King, of course, King Charles III, is having to be quite tough, even with his younger brother, the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, because he knows how people will feel about this particular individual living in such a mass place like Royal Lodge. But now what's developed, and we told you a couple of days ago now about how Harry was very keen still to find a London home. And I don't really, I can understand that. For him, London will always be home. But for Meghan, of course, it was just a fleeting moment in her advancement, wasn't it? She was never going to stay here. Everybody knew that, apparently, but Harry didn't. Now, according to a very well-placed source, Harry wanted to know if he could actually purchase Frogmore Cottage. And this apparently was met with a very much no, absolutely not. And as I've told you before, this really came from the fact that on that site, of course, the Crown Estate, you will have Catherine and William, and they don't want to feel intimidated, full of anxiety, whatever, bumping into two people that have done so many negative things towards them. But apparently Harry couldn't understand this, and as ever, we have to say, allegedly. Now, here's where it gets even more confusing, because you see, Harry desperately wants to hang on to some sort of remnants of his own life, the London life, because he does not want to lose the Councillor of State role. And if he doesn't have a base or a property here, then that is very flimsy and could be gone. And he realises that. Now, it took a lot of persuading and calming down to explain to him that the reason why a Royal Lodge couldn't be just sold off is they don't really belong to anybody. They belong to the Crown Estate and then get passed down. Hence the reason our wonderful monarch, Queen Elizabeth, was gracious enough to give him, whichever you want to call it, the house for him and Meghan to originally live in, Nottingham Cottage, and then, of course, Frogmore Cottage. Harry was having none of it. And it's taken a long time for Harry to realise that Frogmore is really now out of his reach and will never become his home again. He did think in the fullness of time that His Majesty the King may have changed his mind, but as we've seen with his younger brother, the King's on his own mission, and more importantly, the mission to keep the monarchy going. Above all else, monarchy becomes more than family within the British walls. I think we've seen that, and Harry's learnt that lesson very much the hard way. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.